Hello everybody, welcome back to Valley of the Mist Block of the Month. I'm Adrienne Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
And we are here with our July 2020 block. This block, if you're making some for the giveaway with the Guild, they're due at the September meeting. Don't forget, please go online to the Valley of the Mist Quilt Guild's website and get a copy of the instructions. This one I would definitely say.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's a beautiful block. You look at it, it's a beautiful block.
We're improving, so here we go again.
Yeah, it's very improv. So, all right, Shelley, tell us about the fabrics.
Okay. Again, it's our focus fabric is In the Beginnings, and it's from the Western Washington Shop Hop of 2018. And this is one I can give you the size for.
Of the piece of fabric.
Right. Okay, let's go with this. It's a 14 inches by 1.5 inches, and we're going to cut it into two pieces, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
And the reason why she qualified that is because the rest of the fabric, you're going to kind of cut it as we go. Right. Okay, so what other fabric do we need, Shelley?
Okay, this is a focus fabric.
I'm going to take mine down here.
Okay. And then we have
Let's put it here so they can see it.
Okay, then we have a coordinating fabric, black and white.
Okay.
That's all we got here.
So this was a block that I just made up because I don't know. I saw something somewhere and it made me think of it. So basically, we are going to make two oh, here's your focus fabric back. We're going to make like two little sub blocks, and then we have a border of a fabric with one center piece. Okay, so they're not, and these two blocks do not have to be the same size. It's all rough. You know, we want you to be able to use your scraps or make new scraps, right. Whatever.
Yeah, new scraps.
Okay, so first things first, you've got this 14-inch long piece of your focus fabric, and we want you to cut it roughly in half. And so by that I mean cut one of the pieces somewhere between 7 and 8 inches. Okay, so there's no more than a 2-inch difference between the two pieces. Right. So as you can see, ours on these blocks were not, they're different sizes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now the next choice that you have to make is from your black and your white fabric. Do you want to frame the block in black or do you want to frame it in white? And once you make that decision, set that border fabric aside because you don't need it till the end. Right. You're not going to do anything with it till the end. So in this instance, Shelley and I both framed these ones with white. The ones we're making now, I'm going to frame mine in black, and I think Shelley's still going to frame hers in white.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So now all you have to work with that is up in the air is your other fabric. So let's just say it's white because that's what I'm using, and your coordinating fabric, which your coordinating fabric is just a fabric that you see in your focus fabric. Right. Okay, anything that kind of matches that. Now, like I said, we want you to be able to use scraps. And I'm going to tell you what I did, and then, okay, now this is going to be kind of confusing, but basically, when you're trying to figure out how much fabric you need, the more complicated choice is across this width of the block. The up and down, you only have 6 different seams. So this one you have 13 pieces of fabric that are going to go here. And it's only a 12.5-inch block that you have to turn in. So we're having you make it actually around 13 this time. So all of our instructions are going to gear it towards 13 inches. But if you are a little short on something, remember there's a 1/2 inch extra for you to either have fat seams or be short on something.
And that's what the borders are for too.
And then even when we get down to it, you're going to fix it all with the borders.
Right.
So not including that centerpiece and the borders, but including the focus fabric, and including, and this is raw, don't worry about seam allowance. Include the seam allowances in this calculation.
Mm-hmm.
You need about 15 inches of fabric across 10 pieces. 10 pieces,
right.
Okay? 2 of them are the focus fabric, and the other are 4 of the coordinating fabric and 4 of, let's say,
black
the
or white. Yeah.
Black or white. So what that comes down to is the average size of the piece is about 1.5 inches wide.
Right.
But you're using scraps. I mean, you could make them all 1.5 inch. You'd actually end up a 1/4 inch big, but that's okay. A quarter, you'd get at 13 1/4. But you don't have to do that. So what I did was I have a jelly roll of fabric that I'm using this year. And so what I did was, we hadn't talked yet about this top and bottom, but I lopped off 10 inches of this to use on these tops and bottoms because sometimes I need something a little fatter there. And then the jelly roll strip is only 2.5 inches, so it's not 3 inches like you'd say for the average.
Right.
I cut off a smaller piece. It's about 1 inch, 1.8 inch, and then the rest. And so I'm going to use that, and those will be my borders. And I did that on this one when I made it. And I actually used the 1.5 inch size on 3 of them, and I used 1 inch here. But then on the black that I used here, I had some wider fabric, and I sewed, and we're going to step through this as we go. But basically, without including these border pieces at the end, these 2 pieces together widthwise should be about 11 inches. So we'll get there. Don't worry. I know it sounds complicated. We'll get there.
The only thing we haven't mentioned that it might be obvious looking, but if you have black next to the focus or white, then you want it on the opposite.
You're going to do them opposite.
You're going to do them opposite.
These 2, you reverse the fabrics. Yeah. Okay.
That's the only real rules at this point, right?
Right. That the focus goes in the middle.
Yep.
And those 2 reverse, and then you have the border.
Yep.
Okay. So what we're going to do, so we're going to cut our piece of focus fabric into 2 pieces, and then we are going to take strips of our coordinating fabric, and Shelly's going to use black. I'm going to use my white. See, I have all these little scrap pieces that I plan on using. Some are wider. So, some of these may only work on tops because you can take advantage of the top and bottom being a little bigger sometimes because of if you cut your block, if you cut that focus fabric so you're like 8 and 6, then you're going to need a little more. But still, even those ones should average, unless you're way off like that, they kind of average about that 1.5 inches.
Yeah, be careful about going even up to 2 because you're...
Yeah, unless it's, you kind of have to look at it. The up and down before we put on the top and bottom, we also want it to be, we said somewhere around 11 and a half, something like that. That way so you have a decent sized piece to put on the border. Okay, so we're gonna go and we're gonna sew on the first round on each of these blocks. And then we'll be back and we'll talk about where we're at.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, so we have our first round on each of our focus fabrics done. And as you can see, mine are completely different sizes. Shelly's widthwise are similar, but the heights are different.
Right.
Okay, so now here's where we kind of make our first adjustment. And so your second round, and remember you're going to alternate. So mine will be my focus on this side and white on this side. And
coordinating.
Coordinating, sorry. Coordinating around this one, white around this one. Shelly will have black around this one and coordinating around that one.
Right.
Okay, so I don't want to make your brain spin. But remember, with every seam, if you do a 1/4 inch seam, you lose a 1/2 inch. So to get our goal for these 2 inner parts of the block, not including the border, is to be somewhere between 10 and 11 inches wide because you have 3 more pieces to add on to that. And up and down, our goal is to be kind of the same, you know, roughly that same size. You only have two borders on that, so they could be a little bigger.
Right.
But we do all the adjusting with that final border. So this, we still have one more border to add. So now, the calculation you need before the final border is you want to be somewhere between 10 and 11 inches, like I said.
When you're laying these next
to each other. Just so right now, mine are about 6 3/4, and I thought Shirley, you said yours were about the same.
I think mine are
about
pretty
6
darn close
3/4.
to the same. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm aiming to get them to about 11 inches next to each other, but it's across 4 strips, 4 seams, and 4 pieces of fabric. So I'm going to lose 2 inches. So I'm aiming to get somewhere between 10 and 11. So I have to add 2 inches to that. So I'm really aiming to get somewhere between 12 and 13 across 4 pieces. And since I'm at 6 3/4,
where's my calculator?
I need a little over 6 inches of fabric.
Yes.
Okay, so between the 4 pieces. So where am I at? Oh my gosh, Shelley, that's like 1.5 inches. Isn't that what we said? You're going to kind of average about 1.5 inches pieces.
So if you wanted it wider on one, subtract what you go over 1.5 inches from the other one.
Right.
And now you'll come out
And
pretty good
you can
then.
do that way. So, and I'll tell you how I do it, but it's not the most frugal method with your fabric. Is I have pieces, like say I have pieces already cut of my coordinating fabric. So I'm going to add those to this side. But on my white, I don't have that cut yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take another measurement, see where I'm at, and then I'm going to lay them next to each other. And if one of them's too wide, I just trim it.
Oh yeah, we totally can trim if it gets too wide. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely can make all the adjustments after you put it on. If you don't want to think that hard, put bigger pieces on and trim them down.
Yeah, and it works. It totally works because if you cut your scraps are just a little bit big, put it on, and because you want to trim the edges anyways before you sew. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Shelley's actually using scraps that someone gave her that were left over from a quilt that they made, and so they're kind of funky pieces. So she has, this is the white fabric she's using, and so definitely we're going to put on that next round, and when we come back, all that we'll have left is the border, and then we will show you that final adjustment for that, and we're home free. Okay, be back in a minute. Okay. You know, Shelley and I's heads are spinning because we keep going over these numbers. I mean, really, we keep going over these numbers and second guessing ourselves, but it's don't overthink it.
I know, but
let us overthink it for you.
That's the deal, because we're trying to make it so you won't say, oh, I got to rip this out. So we're trying to make it so that doesn't happen.
See, I never say that. I just say, I'll cut that off.
Well, see, maybe we should be telling them that.
Although I did have to re-sew one, but that was because my needle wasn't threaded. I mean, it didn't come unthreaded. So. Okay, so let's look at some magic numbers. All right, so now we have our two sub blocks. We'll call them that, and we have to put on the border and the centerpiece. So across the width, mine are 10 inches, and Shelley's, oh, yours aren't next to each other.
And you read it for me because I'm having my glasses on.
So, and Shelley's are, what do you know, 9 3/4. So my number's easier. We'll use mine. Okay, 10 inches. So remember, we have three pieces of fabric going in here, and so there's going to be 4 seams. A seam here, 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 and here. So we're going to lose 2 inches of fabric. I have 10 inches. I'm trying to go about to 13 just in case, because to be honest, mine aren't even straight up and down exactly. I've been winging it tonight.
Okay.
But, you know, we gave you some extra. Your blocks only have to be 12 and a half, but we're going to 13 just in case you're winging it like me.
Yeah. So if you're not exactly 13, it doesn't matter because we're still aiming for 12 and a half.
Yeah. We're just letting you have some fudge factor. So I need to get to 13 finished. I need a 3-inch finished, which comes out to 5 inches because I have to add 2 for the seam allowances. So I've got 5 inches that I need across 3 pieces of fabric. So you want to do it easy? You take that, divide by 3. That's not going to be an even 1/4 inch, but it is roughly around 1.5 inches. Like I've been saying the whole time, it's actually 1.5 inches, and then that'd be at 3, and then I need 2 more, so that'd be a 2-inch. So it's close.
Yeah, and they don't have to be the same. So,
right.
Yeah.
So Shelly, hers is going to be about the same because she was just a 1/4 inch shorter than mine.
Yeah.
All right. So top to bottom, same thing. You only have 2 pieces you're adding. Right. So if like right now, and these ones you're going to do piece by piece because actually this one on these ones. It didn't matter which order you added them. I added the long pieces and then the short pieces. But on this part, you were going to make these 2 pieces 13 inches. Right. Or if you're an exact person, 12 and a half. That's your minimum. It has to be 12 and a half. So you're going to make those the same height so that the pieces you add along the strip on the side are the finished length of those pieces, which
make it easier.
Which is 12 and a half to 13 inches. So make these, do whatever you have to make these the right height.
12 and a half.
12 and a half to 13 inches. Yeah. So you're going to add 2 pieces of fabric. Take your final, like mine. Right. All right, I'm going to do the calculation in my head. We're all having to do more math at home, right? Mine says this one says it's 10 and a half. I need it to be 13. So that's 2.5 inches plus 1 inch that I lose in the seam allowances. So that's 3.5 inches. So that's, if you do the math, 1 3/4 inch on each end. But I'm going to use what I have, and if one isn't that big, then I'll just finish it out. And then sometimes I just I add a really fat piece and I just lop off a big chunk.
Right.
So that I have a usable piece because I don't want 3/4 inch pieces. I can't use those for anything.
No.
So same thing on these. So you're gonna make these 2 pieces the right height, and then you're gonna add the 3 sides.
Right.
The center and the 2 sides. And when we come back, we will have our blocks. We won't trim them, but we will show you how they look with the square up ruler. Okay. See you in a minute. We did it.
We did it.
All right. Calculations didn't put us under the table.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, so let me show mine. It is at a little oversized, not a lot. It's hard to see with this blue background, but it's there. Let's show Shelly's.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you a little secret about how I do my 3 long strips for this block. Now Shelly, like I said, she's using a lot of leftover scraps.
Not for this one, but for the other one.
Oh, okay. Okay. So for mine, what I did was I made the top and bottoms. I added those to make them the 13 inches. And then I put these together, calculated how much I needed. I needed about, I was at 10. So I needed 15. So I needed 4. Maybe I need a little over 4 inches. 5 inches of fabric. I'm sorry, 5 inches. 5 inches across 4 pieces. Across 4 seams. It's 3 pieces. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that wrong. And guess what? These are about 13 inches long. 13 times 3 is 39, which is almost with the fabric.
I know.
So I'm like, okay, I made my strips 1 3/4 inches wide, and I just took 3 pieces of that out of it. So, and that's how I did it. It was pretty easy. To use that as a final strip of fabric is pretty easy. But if you got scraps,
I did a little different on mine just because I have weird shaped pieces the way I cut out fabric.
Okay.
I calculated what width, the total width I need and then I cut that length. Then I have it, and I cut it into my 3 pieces, and I got them. And it didn't matter because I had 3 pieces. I could figure just start whacking. That looks good. That looks good too. So then I have 3 pieces.
So you cut a 13-inch long piece.
That is the width of the total width I need.
Right, got it. Okay, so she's just using a 13-inch long piece, and I'm using a long piece and getting 3 lengths out of it.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, that's a different way to look at it. I got to say the difference between these with the, I'll take this off of here, with the light border and the dark border, it's pretty striking. I really like it. I'm glad I did one of each. The other advantage of doing one of each is I could use my small pieces. You kind of need long pieces for the border ones.
Yes.
But the other one you can use smaller pieces. So that's why I didn't have a lot of scrap pieces of the black, because I'd used them when I made that one.
Oh, right.
And vice versa. So, all right. So there we have it.
Yep.
July block. We're over halfway through the year. We are just cranking them out now, aren't we?
Cranking them out. We do know what we'll be making. We haven't made them all yet, but we know what we will be making.
Well, we've made all but one.
Well, that's true.
Well, all right. Between the 2 of us, we've made all but one.
Right.
Because Shelley's block for the last block of the year, she has this crazy idea about scraps that she really hasn't divulged.
Well, no, because I don't have a ton of scraps yet to make it with, so I haven't made one.
Yeah, but you haven't even really explained how it is. But we'll see there. That's the end of the year. It's December.
Yeah.
Okay, so have fun. Have a good time over this summer. Don't forget to make your blocks. And we will see you next month.